Love to see it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
If I could, just real quickly, as a housekeeping, of course, all of our meetings are recorded, so if you are speaking, do speak into the mics. All right? All right. I'm going to make sure we record.
Thank you for joining us for the October 25th meeting of the Student Advisory Council. We will now call the October 25th, 2023 council meeting to order. Madam Vice Chair, will you please call the roll?
Representing Best Academy, Mr. Kevin Scott Jr. Also representing Best Academy, Mr. Marquavius Clayton.
Here.
Representing Carver Early College, Mr. Herman McGee.
Here.
Representing Carver Early College, Zachariah, I think. Representing Carver Early College, Malik. Okay. Representing Carver Steen, Daria. No, okay. Representing Drew Charter, Mr. Gabriel. Representing CSK, Ms. Anike. Here. Representing CSK, Ms. Shataria. Here. Representing Doug, Miss Denisha. No. Representing Maynard Jackson, Liam.
Here.
Representing Maynard Jackson, Miss Kelsey. Representing Kip, Miss Kennedy Upshaw.
Here.
Representing Kip, Mr. Caleb. Representing Mays, Miss Tamar.
Here.
Representing Mays, Miss Tanaya. Representing Midtown, Mr. Liam.
Here.
Representing Midtown, Miss Madison.
Here.
Representing North Atlanta, Miss Iridium.
Here.
Representing North Atlanta, Mr. Luke.
Here.
Representing South Atlanta, Miss Deja. Representing South Atlanta, Mr. DeMar.
Here.
Representing Thero, Miss Kayla. Also representing Thero, Mr. Terrence.
Here.
Here.
Representing Washington, me, Peyton Holm, here. Representing Washington, Miss Brooke.
Here. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the September 27th meeting?
I motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
It was moved by Peyton Hall and properly seconded by Tamar. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to approve the October 25th Student Advisory Council agenda?
I motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
It was moved by Terrence and seconded by Kennedy. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We would like to begin today's agenda by going over the Student Bill of Rights with Dr. CT.
Testing. All right. Good evening, everyone. In front of you, you have this handout. So we're going to just talk to that for our conversation. This was a discussion that was tabled from our last meeting due to time. And so I just wanted to provide you with an update on where we are with the Student Bill of Rights and where you can fit in. So I'm not going to go over everything because you all are very familiar with this initiative. But just look at the second slide where it says, what is the Student Bill of Rights, just so you can understand and really know deeply why we're doing this. Are we? It was the first thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're doing this first. Okay. All right. We'll continue discussion after Dr. Bracken. All right.
We apologize. Excuse me, we apologize for the mistake in the agenda. We're going to begin with APS Finance and Budget with Dr. Lisa Bracken. Let's give her a round of applause, guys.
Right, thank you. Good afternoon. You guys submitted really good questions. Thank you so much for this. I was telling my colleagues just a minute ago, you had me pulling data and building charts I haven't looked at in a really long time. So with that, I'm just going to walk through your questions. At the end, I'll have an opportunity if you have any additional questions for me today. I'll be here to answer those. Again, I'm Lisa Bracken. I'm your Chief Financial Officer here at APS. With me today, I have Harpreet Hora. She oversees our budget services area. Lindsay Evans is over federal programs. We're supported by Candace Butler, who also is going to be sharing some slides today. So with that, I'll dive right in.
I just want to, let me just pause right quick.
Sure, absolutely.
First, we want to say thank you guys for coming, but we also want to just say we want to ask for her to get through her presentation before we start the questions, and we're going to keep the questions at about 10 minutes, so just keep that in mind.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so the first question was around athletics. I'm going to have to turn around so I can see my response. So the question was, how is the money divided between our clubs, specifically athletics? Is there any... Do we take into account gender, activeness or activities, success in the sports, etc.? So our athletics budget is made up of both general fund dollars, so that means that there's money that we take into the district from state and local government that is redistributed to the athletics program, a central office budget. Also, gate sales and things like that can also contribute what we call special revenue budget to athletics. The money that comes into our athletics program is then redistributed for athletic programs, and we make sure that equity is at the forefront of that allocation. We provide equal opportunities for those resources based on male and female sports. Expenses and needs are identified through a review of previous year inventory. So at the end of the year, we're looking at things like equipment, uniforms, things like that, and that helps to determine what the budget allocation will be in the upcoming fiscal year. And based on that documentation, we do a purchase, and that purchase goes to all schools equally. So if we've identified that tennis needs investments based on the documentation of inventory, then we will do a refresh for tennis across all schools based on that assessment. And then if additional items are needed that are specific to a school, that's the second process. So we'll do another review that's just looking at school by school needs and allocating based on that. And then uniforms are purchased on a rotating basis. We do have to use those special revenue dollars or unearmarked dollars for uniforms, and that's on a rotation for every 3 to 5 years. And then, of course, the performance of an athletic team in no way determines that their allocation will be in the upcoming year. We're just looking at what is needed to support the program. So how can schools go about receiving funding for their student government association? So my first questions will be anytime that a program manager is coming to ask for additional resources, I take them through a series of questions, and that helps me know how we can get dollars out to support that program. So the first would be, what's the problem you need to address? So when there is a request for funding, my ask back is, What are you trying to address with this funding? What do you propose doing with the funding? How will you use it? How will it help you support your goals, your outcomes, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve with those funds? The second question I would ask is, what is it buying? That's really important because that helps me know what revenue source I can then use. As I mentioned, uniforms, I can't use local revenue to purchase uniforms. I have to use special revenue. I can't buy food with local revenue. I have to use special revenue. So once I have an idea of what you want to buy with those dollars, I can determine what the revenue source would be and how much we could allocate based on that. And then finally, what do you hope to achieve with those dollars? So again, aligning those resources with what you hope to see that those dollars will buy with something we call return on investment of those dollars. And why is money the answer? So I always ask people to think creatively about, is there something around capacity? Is there something that you could do that doesn't require additional funding? And once we have those answers in place, that helps me better understand what an allotment might be and where we could find resources to support it. So there was a really great question around what part of the budget specifically is allocated to our underrepresented communities or low-income communities. This is a twofold response. I'll take the general fund answer really quickly, and I'll hand off to my federal programs team. So we use something called the Student Success Funding Formula at APS. Anybody heard of that before? SSF? So it's a per pupil weighted allocation formula. We're actually one of the only districts in Georgia that uses this, really one of the only districts in the nation that uses this. And that means that we give dollars to schools based primarily on student attributes instead of a fixed allocation, right? So it could be that in a more traditional funding formula, we would say 25 students in a kindergarten class, you get one teacher. What we do instead is we say $5,000 for a student. If that student is in kindergarten, then they receive an additional $1,000. If that student is a student in poverty, they would receive an additional $2,500. And so the weights add up on top of that per pupil allotment, and then schools with their GO teams can decide how they want to use those dollars to support the programs in their schools. So what you see up here is all the weights that we allocate dollars for. Primarily through things like our poverty weight. 42.5 million goes out based on a poverty weight. An additional 2 million goes out based on concentration of poverty. And that really concentrates our resources and our dollars in schools where there's the highest need. So that's one layer. That's our general fund dollars and how we get those out first. And then, yes, we also allocate dollars through special revenue and federal programs. And I'll hand off to the team if they want to talk through those.
Will do. I got it.
Candace Butler, also in federal programs.
Yes. So we receive Title I funds. This serves as supplemental funds, and it gives all schools an opportunity to receive additional funds, and it helps them level the playing field. It's supplemental funds for schools that have a poverty rate of at least 50%. So we receive $30 million from Georgia Department of Ed, which is our governing body, and then we distribute them or push them down to the school level. The majority of this $30 million is actually pushed down to the schools, and they are able to purchase additional teachers, supplemental supplies. It's just really just a way of leveling the playing field. Okay. We also have a QR code, and we're asking for feedback, you all. So this is the first of many sessions that we would like to push in throughout the year to just get some feedback from you all. We are asking for, and it's just one question, funding. It's around funding for our CARES or our ARP. Are you guys familiar with it? Have you guys heard of CARES or ESSER as a result of the pandemic?
It's additional funding that we receive from the pandemic to offset learning loss, the cost of making sure those help safe environment coming out of the pandemic. You scan the QR code. The survey actually is asking you to survey at the beginning when you first got it that wanted to get insight generation of how important things those initiatives. So in there, to think about planning your career goals, it's just saying, super not so much.
And we're looking at sustainability for these initiatives, so we would appreciate your feedback. Like I said, this is our first of many surveys that we would like to get back from you all this year.
And you can access if you guys can pass it on to your classmates. Go to the website, go to the program, and look for the recipe link. Survey, anyone that you go to this or the more that the more informed you are, the better.
And if you guys have any questions about that, we will still be here at the end if you guys would like for us to answer it. Okay? Thank you.
So that's really important. There's about $300 million that came to our district through that funding source. And it goes away at the end of this year. And so if we want to maintain some of the services that those dollars provided, we need to know what we need to roll into our general fund or our recurring funding sources. And we can't know what matters most to you if we don't hear your voices. And so that's why it's so important that we actually do want you to go to this QR code, share it with your peers, and give us feedback on what you think is most important for us to continuing to fund going forward, even after the federal dollars dry up. Does that make sense? Okay. The next question was around spending for special education programs. We spend a lot on special education, and we've spent more and more every year. So we do actually get money from the state to cover our special education budgets, but it funds just a fraction of the overall cost. We also get money from the federal government to cover special education, but most of the money comes in from our local or property taxes. We spend about $95 million in special education, or budgeted in the current year. So for this current year, we have about $95.5 million for special education. For a student that is receiving special education services, that breaks out to on average $16,000 per student, and that's up 21% from last year. Some of that's up because just in general, the cost of teachers is increasing as we give salary increases and benefit costs increase, but that's also expanded programs and services, more teachers and more paraprofessionals in the classroom. Has there been an increase in funding for safety and security? Again, yes. This is another one where we receive money from various different places, but the bulk of our spending is coming from our local taxpayer dollars. That's why it's so important that our home owners and our taxes are collected each year. But you can see the safety and security budgets since 2017 have increased and really shot up in the last few years, about 63% increase since FY 2017. That green bar at the top on that last year is a state grant. It's about $4 to $5 million that we're using for infrastructure in our buildings. So additional tools and technologies for the hardening or safety of our buildings. Is there assistance that schools can receive in making good financial decisions? There absolutely is. So we do have a principals meeting every January where we pull together all the principals of the district, and they come and they receive their budget allocations. And then various people from the central office will come and talk to them about ways they can leverage those dollars to meet their specific concerns. So let's say one school is dealing with attendance as their primary issue, and another school is dealing with maybe reading as their primary issue. Now, we know all of those things kind of interplay together, but each school is going to have a targeted response, and so there's opportunity for principals to collaborate and for central office to give feedback too on the best way to tackle those specific issues. They can also schedule one-on-ones with our budget team, with our human resources departments. Our associate superintendents and our academics teams can help support for specific initiatives. I mentioned that peer sharing and mentorships that principals can do with each other for best practices. But we do know that we could do more. So this is an area that we've really focused on and will continue to focus on in the next couple of years, because we do give so much money out to schools in a flexible way, just through dollar allotments. It does matter so much about how principals then decide to use those dollars in their school. So we can give money out all day, every day using an equitable funding formula, but if principals aren't then leveraging those dollars in their building to meet specific needs or programs, then it doesn't really matter as much. So we know that there's more coaching that we can do in this area, and love your feedback on any ideas. Is there anything that's considered high priority? So we are in this process as we speak. Every year the board develops something called budget parameters. They develop this really early in the process. So our fiscal year, our year, runs similar to the school year. So we start in June, we end in July. And during that time frame, so that's when our budget gets adopted. It gets adopted in June and goes in place in July. We started in September, so 2 months after the budget was adopted, building the next year's budget. It's almost an ongoing process. We're just constantly planning and thinking about this. And that first step is getting our board to think about what the priorities of the district are for the upcoming year and telling us, so that when we go out and start meeting with principals and department heads, they're building those budgets in alignment with those board parameters. The board parameters are aligned to something called the Student Outcomes Focused Governance Model, or SOFG, and that's 4 specific goals around literacy proficiency, numeracy proficiency, post-graduation preparedness, college and career readiness. So when we're looking at spend or upcoming spend for the next year, we're really trying to align against these priorities, which are the budget parameters and the board's goals and guardrails. What's the chain of command when it comes to the budget? So who approves what, who does what? It starts with me. It starts with the budget team and the CFO. We're looking at things like the trend. We're making a recommendation on, we think school budgets should go up based on what revenue might look like in the upcoming year. We might need to do some trimming in these areas. We're looking at trend, and there's another slide that talks about how we get to that. But then we bring a proposal to Cabinet. Cabinet is the superintendent's chief areas or chief representatives of each area of the district. And so we're all looking at it through our lens, thinking about where we need to cut, where we can add budget. Then we take that recommendation to the superintendent, who will ultimately bring that to the board. We have public comment and public engagement throughout the budget process, but really at the end, there's a required public comment session too that has to happen before the budget's adopted, and then the board ultimately adopts the budget. How much autonomy does the school team, teams have? Again, I mentioned because of our student success funding formula, $274 million goes out to the schools in a flexible dollar allocation. So there is a lot of flexibility, especially in these programs in blue, for schools to have some discretion in how they use their dollars. But because many times schools will start with all of their existing positions, they're trying to keep on the teachers that they have, the support staff that they have, and most of our budget is in people, it's in human resources. And then when they think about mandatory spend or signature programming that they need to fund, and then they think about any current initiatives that they want to make sure they're supporting for the upcoming year, that it can feel like it's not very flexible, right? So if you are continuing to allocate every year the way you did the year before, it doesn't feel that flexible. But there is opportunity for innovation and stepping out of the box. When considering the budget, what do we look for? We're looking at things like the historical trend, what we budgeted in the past, what we've spent in the past. We're looking at any shifting priorities. When the board adopts those new goals, then that tells us we need to start moving money in different places. We're looking at program effectiveness, what's working, what's not working. We get community engagement. The public tells us what they want us to continue to fund and prioritize. We're looking at the competitive talent market. So are the neighboring districts giving big raises? If they are, we probably need to think about how we're going to continue to compensate our teachers. We look at something called inflation or the consumer price index. That's just how much things cost, right? As prices go up and we've got to buy the same things, we've got to pay more for it. And just economic trends and other factors like that. So we take in a lot of information as we're starting to make these decisions. Finally, how can you be involved? And this is the part that I am most interested in talking to you about. We have something that's called our Budget Commission. Every month we meet with the board and we do a presentation to them about what's going on with the budget. We're making recommendations. We're closing budget gaps. We're doing all this kind of work. And that's actually on Facebook Live. You can go back to the Atlanta Board of Education Facebook page, and you can look at all of our previous Budget Commission meetings and kind of learn what we're talking about that year. Identify what our gaps are, what our issues are, what are we trying to tackle. And then from that, you can ask questions. You could submit questions directly to me. You can give feedback or comment through this QR code. This is the second QR code. It's clickable. It's as a link as well. But we want to hear from you. What do you care most about? Where do you want to see the funding go? What do we need to make sure we're concentrating on the upcoming year? And then participate. We do know that our GO teams, who do have to adopt the budget each year, have a student representation on that. And even if you are not the student on the GO team, you can still attend those GO team meetings. You can still see what your specific school is proposing for their budget. Those have to be public meetings. Anybody can attend, and you can kind of give voice there in your specific school. That's a very powerful place to push in. So that's all the questions that you asked me in advance. Do you have any other questions for me today?
And how important, well, I guess you already touched how important it would be for us to get the survey signatures, but I just wanted to talk more about it. Thank you.
Yep. So I'll take a stab, and if the team wants to add anything, feel free. So you did mention the 4 categories of spend. So we have, you'll see the federal funding primarily in our intervention programs at the school level. So at elementary, we actually added 30 minutes of the day specifically for intervention, but in all schools, we carved out 30 minutes for intervention, and we paid for the software and the platforms that would be used for that. Our summer program received a lot of innovation based on this funding source, and so we would need to rethink what summer school looks like absent the federal funding. Each school also got a flexible allotment, so they just got dollars that they could use and prioritize. And so when the funds fall off, those schools are going to feel a reduction to their budget based on that, and that's going to mean that their remaining dollars have to be reprioritized. And so they're going to be making some of those trade-off decisions if we're not able to come behind and backfill some of those losses. Do you guys want to weigh in on anything, any other specific?
Y'all. Okay. I was going to say, we're also funding Hazel Health. Are you guys familiar with that? That is something that has been funded through CARES as well. And then the device, like the one-to-one device, that's something that was funded through CARES as well.
Yeah, so the devices is really important because we bought the first ones with CARES. But we know that the resupply of those, as devices get lost or they get stolen or damaged, that the general fund is going to have to pick that up if we're going to keep that initiative going. Great question.
Hi, I'm Liam Smith from Maynard Jackson. I had a question about what measures are in place to prevent inefficiency in budget expenditure, and also to enforce allocations, essentially making sure that money isn't misappropriated and is actually going to where it's allocated for.
Yeah, absolutely. You sound like one of our board members. So efficiency in budgeting is a priority. We want to make sure that if we are using these dollars for a specific purpose, that we're actually achieving that purpose at the end of the day. So part of that is around setting those metrics on the front end so we know what to measure, right? So some of our biggest initiatives, like the intervention block, when we knew we were getting the funds, we determined on the front end what we wanted to use it for and what our expected outcomes would be. And what that means is at the end of that, or at some point in the cycle, you can go back and say, did we meet those goals? Now, that doesn't always mean that that doesn't always provide you the answer. Sometimes what that means is we didn't do enough money, or we did the right amount, but there was something around the fidelity of implementation, right? Each school kind of implemented it in different ways. So it can prompt the question of, do we need to dive deeper? Maybe it's more money, maybe it's less money, maybe we sunset that program. But at least looking at, are we achieving the set out goals when we are studying the budgets, can prompt that conversation as we're going into the next budget cycle. We have internal auditors who are looking at our processes on a regular basis. We have external auditors from the state. Also just external third-party auditors that are coming in every single year and looking at, are we following our practices? Are we using good accounting practices? Are we being responsible with the dollars? And so we do have a lot of eyes on us all the time. And of course, our teams are always making sure that we are holding our business center managers accountable to our policies and our practices. Yeah.
Sorry, I have one more follow-up question. Is the data from those audits publicly available, or is it an internal matter?
No, the internal audit website has our internal audits listed there. And again, internal audit is one of those committees, just like Budget Commission, that is recorded and aired every month. So you can go on Facebook, on the board's website, and you can watch all of those internal audit committee meetings.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
So I have a question in regards to the funding formula that you use to allocate money to schools. Mm-hmm. Specifically in respect to Coretta Scott King, KIPP, and Atlanta's APS's charter schools, mm-hmm. Does the number that formula spits out for how much funding those schools should be allocated, does that match how much funding those schools actually receive?
Yeah, so we only use SSF for our traditional schools. For our charter schools, we use a funding formula that the state provides. So the state tells us the formula, we just plug in our numbers, and it generates the allocation that will go to the charter schools. Our partner schools, we contract with them, and so it's a per pupil amount that's negotiated within the contract, and so we just multiply that by their enrollment, and that's the allocation that they get. Some of our non-traditional schools like BES, CSK, and some of our other programs like Hank Aaron, we do a separate allotment for. We're meeting with the principals and the associate superintendents each year to do a needs assessment to determine what their budget allocation will be based on changing in enrollment and changing in their programming. And that's just because the SSF allocation for those schools, because of a few different reasons, the number of students primarily pulls so much more dollars away from the pot. So if you think about like all the money is going into one pot, and then the funding formula redistributes that based on the formula, those schools, because it's enrollment driven, would have to have so much more on top of the enrollment allocation to supplement their funding so that they can actually run their programs, that it would pull money away from the other schools. So we do this pot for SSF, traditional schools, and then we have a separate pot that we're using the other school, that we use to fund the other schools.
Thank you so much. That's going to be all the time we have today for the budget portion.
All right, thank you.
We also, just one more, is there anything as a council we can do? Any next steps?
Yeah, absolutely. Be engaged. Continue to ask these great questions. Email them to us. Use those QR codes. During the later part of the budget process, we do a big push. We do regional committee meetings, and we do lots of talking about our budget. And at that point in time, we're really trying to get feedback from the community to make sure before the board adopts it, we've heard as many voices as we can. And so we'll make sure to work with the administrative team to get your voices plugged in again at that point in the process.
And I'm just going to ask that our budget committee, that you get her email and you send a follow-up email on behalf of the council.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Next, we would like to hear from Mrs. W. about our communications department.
Okay. Good evening, all. How are you doing? It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for Dr. CT and Mr. Glass for inviting me. I'm Dorna Wordlin. I'm the Chief Communications Officer here for the district, and I'm here to talk to you about what platforms we have available to you for us to communicate with you, and then also what's the best way for you to communicate with us and what do you need more of. So first, I want to talk about how our office is organized. So we have 4 functional areas. We have projects and governance, which really looks at our district branding, reputation management, project management, protocols and procedures, our website management, and graphic design. Our second functional area is media relations. So if you've ever seen us on the news, we have a whole team that manages that. And we have our newsroom, press conferences, special events, social media, press releases, and media advisories. I'm actually joined by one of our social media mavens, Miss Lauren Cole. She's our social media coordinator. So she is the genius behind our APS update pages on our social media. Our third functional unit is editorial and production. And so we do event video coverage, video production, district-wide messaging, newsletters, blogs, and all of our, 54 of our 58 neighborhood schools have communications ambassadors. So there was someone at your school that has a dotted line to our office, that receives training from our office, and that also gets information to push out to you all at school. The last section is our executive communications. So That functional team supports our superintendent, senior cabinet, our chief of police, and any other spokespeople that we have for the district. So that person will help with script writing, speech writing, crisis communications, parent letters. So your principals actually sometimes rely on us to draft letters to send out to your parents. We also do board scripts and notices and video and voiceovers. So that is the functional makeup of the Office of Communications. Secondarily, we have a sheet that you should have in front of you that looks like this. Do you all see that? It should have across the top channel, audience, niche, and content. These are our district communication channels. And out of these, 7 of them specifically reach out to you all. So if you take a look at it, I'll put my glasses back on because I'm blind. All right, you see we have Infinite Campus. We also have our school communications ambassadors, our APS Today blog, Instagram and Twitter, or now known as X. We have Facebook. We also have YouTube, and I believe you all also use Assembly for your meetings as well, right? You don't? Oh, okay.
It's there.
It's there, but they haven't used it yet. All right. Well, we use a platform called Assembly for our board meetings, and that is also available to the public. So if you go out and look at any of our board meetings, you can find that content in this tool called Assembly. So out of those that I mentioned, how many of you follow us on social media? Okay, that's a good number. All right, that's the majority of you. So what I want to do is talk to you a little bit. On this QR code, how many of you have cell phones right now? Okay, if you could scan that QR code for me, and we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. At that code, there are 5 questions. The first is, what communication platform do you use the most to receive information? The second is, how often do you want to receive information? And if you can't scan it, I'll come around. The third is, what's the best way for us to communicate with you? Because, you know, we have these 7 channels that we use, but are those the best channels for you to get information from us? Is there something else you want to see? We're going to talk about that in a second. Number 4, what tools does your school use to communicate with you? And then what do you want to see or hear more of from the district? So I want you to take a minute to complete that, or a few minutes to complete that, and then we're going to talk about it. Does anyone need to scan a sheet? Okay.
I put it in the group me as well, guys.
Okay, here you go. Okay. What happened?
It worked for me.
It's the editing link.
No, it works.
Oh, when I scan it, is the editing link?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that's
It's the editing link that's on there?
No, that one's right.
The one up there is right?
Yeah.
It took me straight to the editing.
Okay.
That's what happened to me.
Okay, so use the one up here.
That one worked for me.
Who has the correct access?
Okay, hold on.
Okay, who needs help with the access? Okay, so all right. All right. How do I get a sweater? Can I get a sweater since I'm coming to? All right.
Okay, try it again, guys.
So I want to capture this information internally, and then I want to talk to you all about it. So while you're doing that, well, do you need silence to finish this? Because I know that some of us operate differently, all right? I get overstimulated very, very quickly some days. TikTok. I heard somebody say TikTok. That is not going to happen. We are prohibited from using TikTok in the district. If you follow the news, you know the state of Georgia governor will not allow any state entities to use TikTok? All right, so you guys finished? Let's talk about this. So the first question is, what communication platforms do you use most to get your information from the district? Anybody? Instagram? You're talking to somebody.
Oh. Well, I use Instagram the most. Not like, I don't go looking for it really like that. It just pops up, and then once I see it, I press on it and like read further information above it. But like, that's mainly the place I use.
So Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you following us on Instagram?
I'm following every page on Instagram.
Do you have notifications?
I ain't got the post notifications on, but I'm following the APS Instagram, my school's Instagram. I'm following other people's schools' Instagrams.
Okay.
I'm following a lot.
I love it. All right. Who else? Yes. Mr. Goodman?
A big reason why my family gets a lot of the information is because of the robocalls. You know, the ones to your house. At times, they can get a little bit tedious, but yeah, a lot of good information comes from the robocall.
Okay, good. What about you?
My school is really great about sending information through email, so that's how I get most of mine.
Okay, emails, robocall, IG. All right. Who else?
My school uses a platform called Remind, so that's how we get a lot of our information.
Perfect. All right. Who else has Remind at your school? Okay. All right. Who else wants to share? Mr. McCullough?
We use a lot of Twitter as well as like our North Atlanta app that sends out a lot of the information that comes from the district.
Yes. How many of you have apps at your school? Just one, two? What school? You go to North Atlanta too? Okay. All right.
I think we technically used to have one at the point in time.
Yes. Okay. All right. So the second question. How often do you want to receive information? Do you want to receive information every day, as it comes out, every week? How do you want to get information?
Like as soon as it's there.
As soon as it happens.
Unless it's like breaking news, like a weekly newsletter is fine, like, you know, but if it's something like very important, you know, school is out or weather, of course, tell me at the time, but something that could wait, just give me like one weekly newsletter.
So you know we have a weekly newsletter. How many of you read it?
There's a weekly newsletter.
It's called APS Now.
Oh, I don't read that.
I didn't even know we had
So your parents get it.
Do they, though?
So none of you have seen it. So we're going to make a note. Yes.
On a comment on stuff sent to parents. So, like, my mom, like, she'll get the stuff and she'll read it, but she doesn't tell me about it. So it's like, I'll come back like a week or so later and be like, oh, my school's doing this. She's like, oh, yeah, I know. Like, why didn't you tell me?
Okay.
So I feel like it would be great if stuff like that, if you could also put it on the Instagram. Because I get the Instagram stuff, but she gets the newsletters.
So what I'm hearing is that you all need a vehicle to come directly to you, like the newsletter that we send out to your parents, because that has a lot of information in it. And you can also come to our website to view those as well. So we have archives on our website, but that's a very good point. I've been through 2 generations of children. I'm kind of like my 3rd generation now. So I know that sometimes he'll get information and I might not get it, or I get it and I have to tell him. So that's a very good point. Yes.
Also, my question is, how often does the Board of Education meet, and is that included in the newsletters as well?
They meet monthly, yes, and they're public meetings, so you all can actually come to the meeting, and you have Mr. Glass here, who facilitates those. Mm-hmm.
Are those also included in the newsletters, or?
The schedule for them, yes, we do put it out, but I don't think we do it on a routine basis. We may just probably put in there once or twice, so people can probably take it down, but we could include that more often. Mm-hmm. And the Board of Ed also has its own social media presence and its own web presence as well. All right, yes.
Is there like a monthly calendar with like all events or upcoming? Is that like on the social media that is posted?
It is actually on our website.
Okay.
So we do have a district calendar on our website. So all of our public facing events feed into our website. Do you need to get that in a different vehicle?
Could we maybe like every month, like the first of every month, like maybe post like, hey, this is the schedule for the month of October. This is the schedule for the month of November.
And so what do you want to see in that schedule? Do you just want to see like district-wide events, or do you want to see school events?
It could be everything, like just all in one, just so everybody can like see it like on the actual like feed.
Okay. All right. I noted. You have something, Mr. Harris?
I was gonna say what she said, but I just feel like we could have it on social media, because I feel like that's where a lot of us are, and we see the information and we kind of look at it because it's there. So, and websites, we're on the internet, but it's not really like websites.
So you all don't really want to go out to the website and have to scour through that stuff. You want to get it. You want it to come to you, like for social media. Okay. So you want calendars, district-wide, and perhaps schools. So we can talk to your school's comms ambassadors to talk to them about getting out monthly calendars to you. Who else has something? All right.
Kind of a follow-up to like calendars and stuff. I don't necessarily think there's an issue with them being on websites. I just think for a lot of students, it's really easy for those websites to be like pushed out through social media, because I know there's only so much you can put out on an Instagram post. You can't put the whole year's worth of calendar on one post. Right. But if there's like a tweet or a post, or like multiple posts, or even a story that has the link, or if it's like within like, I know a lot of people use like Linktree, which is like the formula to like keep a bunch of links in a bio, something like that, just so it's like readily available. Because I mean, we have so much technology at our fingertips that we get lazy sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm guilty of it, so I feel like if it's just there and pretty easily digestible, it just makes it easier for everybody.
Okay, perfect. So we will make sure we include some of those links. Yes, Madam Chair.
This might be like absurd, but maybe we should just make an app. Like, just make a hub, because I'm pretty sure it works at North Atlanta, so I'm pretty sure it works in the district, so yeah.
So how many of you would like to see a district app? I think the students have spoken, the scholars have spoken. Okay. I'm going to have to talk to Dr. Bracken, who's the money lady, about that, so yes.
Also piggybacking off of the app idea, it should probably be like more pushed out that schools have an app, because I just know our school website, Washington school website, is like not well kept, not updated. And I'm sure if it's happening at our school, it's happening at other schools. So making sure that everybody has an app. So it's an APS app, then maybe like cluster, like your cluster app, and then that should be it. And then Instagram.
Maybe
so, you know, I like the One Hub idea. So we are getting ready to undertake a massive website redesign project. So we just got the funding earmarked. We have to go through the board to get it approved. But we will be redesigning our district website as well as all of our schools' websites. But I do want to hear you about the app. I think it would be a really good thing to have one centralized location for you to be able to go to get this information. And then in addition to our other platforms as well. Okay, good. Let's see, number 4. I think some of you gave me those answers. What tools does your school use to communicate with you? So we know we have an app. We know we have Remind. We know we have email. What else? School Classroom? Google Classroom. Okay.
I actually had a question about the previous topics that we were talking about.
Okay.
I would, like you were talking about how stuff is on Facebook. I was wondering if you could, inside of this hub or whatever we end up putting all our information in, put information on basic school stuff that we may not know about, because you know all of us will probably be out of APS in the next couple years, but for our newer students, then they have to relearn about the budget, they have to relearn about the different departments, and there's a whole lot of district-wide information that we just don't know because the people who didn't know leave soon. Like every 4 years you have a completely new batch of students, so stuff like that.
Like maybe like an archive or repository of information, like reference materials where you all can go to get information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I like that. What else? Anything else? Any other tools? Yes.
Also, you know, much like my colleague over there said, you know, I think it would be a really good idea to just have, like, you know, like the chart you showed us with the structure of the Office of Communications, just have like readily available flow charts like that available on the website and stuff, so people can see, you know, where exactly you do you need to go to fix an issue before going straight to Dr. Battle, for instance. So I think that would be a good idea to have, especially for new families.
Okay. So one thing that I did not put on here, or maybe is it on here? Let me see. Do you all see Let's Talk on here? Oh, I did not include it because it's not really managed by us, but we do respond. So we do have an open forum called Let's Talk that you can access on our website. And that's also listed in our newsletters as well, that you can come in and you can ask us questions. You can ask any question, and it will get routed to the appropriate division or office. And let me see what else. That's one thing. The other thing is, on our website, there's a district homepage or About Us page that has a lot of information about the district. And it also has information about our organizational structure. So it shows our org chart, and it also shows what each office does at the district as well. Yes.
So I noticed as you were asking us if we knew like about certain platforms, everybody was like, no. So I know like even with Hazel Health, for instance, I didn't know about it until like last year. So is there a way, since like we're talking about like communication, is there a way to like actually get to better the communication so that students actually know about these things and we're not just like, you know, saying, hey, this needs to be fixed, when it's actually a platform that is there for us to actually communicate what we feel should be fixed?
Yeah. The answer is yes. So we can work on that. And I think what I'm hearing is that your parents may be getting a lot of information, but you're not getting information directly to you. So you need to know what we have as far as resources from the district level in the manner that you want to see it. So you don't necessarily want to come to our website. You may just want it to be out on social media and most definitely in the app. So I think I've heard you loudly and clear that we need to do a district app. I think there was one here a while back. I wasn't here then, but we can definitely look into that. And so what do you want to see or hear more of from the district?
An app.
All right, an app. What else? Yes.
I think a lot of announcements that are given to parents and students are mostly centered around what's going on at their school and like, oh, we have PSATs tomorrow or whatever. I think it might be helpful to also provide them with some policy information on new things that are happening within the district that might affect them or their schools.
Okay, perfect, yes.
Piggybacking off of that, like policy changes or school changes.
Yes.
You know, it's abundantly clear that APS basically has a lot of the resources to answer a lot of pressing issues. The problem is not a lot of people know about it. So I think just a lot more of these town halls with, you know, talking about how to better disseminate information will be incredibly useful to solve future conflicts.
Wonderful. So I know that if I ever need to run for office or if I ever need a turn, I need to come to this particular forum because you all are amazing. So do you have any questions for me? Yes.
I had an additional thing too, but a lot of like the meetings with like the Board of Education and subcommittees within the APS district as well, because I know people that I think would go to those meetings if they were informed about them and didn't have to like go looking for them, or like, because a lot of the times it is kind of hard to like go down like 3 pages, a 3-page rabbit hole on a website to find a specific subcommittee meeting that is of interest, and it's just like having that, I think, blasted out would be beneficial.
Okay. So in our newsletter that we send out to our external stakeholders, which include like parents in the community, we do have a link to our community engagement page, which has a lot of information about those community engagement meetings that are happening. And we typically do one the Thursday right after the board meeting as well. So what I think I'm hearing, the first thing is that you all need more information to come to you directly, right? And so because we have a lot of information that's already available, but you're just not getting it. So we're going to fix that, and I'm going to pledge to you to fix that because that's my job, right? What else do you need? Tell me what else you need. An app. Yes.
That's unfortunately all the time we have.
All right.
I would like my operations to get your email, and they'll send you a follow-up email on behalf of the Student Advisory Council Chair, letting you know what else we would like to see.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
How much time do I have?
About 25 minutes.
Oh, okay. I won't need all that. So if you don't follow APS Update, follow it. There's a lot of information on there as well. And I also dropped several links that were mentioned while Dorna was speaking. I put that in the group me as well. I do have a note from Chief of Staff, Ms. Erica Long, is a message from Dr. Battle that I wanted to read to you all right quick, and then I'll go into Student Bill of Rights. And this just came through like 12 minutes ago. All right, I trust that tonight's meeting with the Student Advisory Council will be a productive one. I understand the agenda is packed. Please let the SAC know that our leadership team is working in response to all of the priorities they outlined for Dr. Battle last month. In the coming days, they will receive an invitation from Dr. Gadsden's office to participate in the November principals meeting. This will give the SAC the chance to directly talk with principals and the administration about item number 1 on the priority list. With respect to item number 2, better marketing of non-core curricular offerings, we would like to report out to the SAC in an upcoming meeting about our work on those efforts. Dr. Battle and I recently met with Mayor Dickens and discussed the Year of the Youth and other City of Atlanta related needs of our students from item number 3. The SAC should be happy to hear that the APS PD and APD collaboration around football game security is especially strong and has kept our football season free of major incidents. We recognize, however, that there's still work to do around football game and stadium safety. For that reason, we moved this Friday's South Atlanta versus Washington football game from 7:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. We are hopeful that an earlier game, we are hopeful that an earlier game will help mitigate against some of the safety issues we are seeing. Last week, Dr. Battle participated in a very productive virtual conversation with over 80 Spanish-speaking families. This group of parents meets weekly, and they invited the superintendent to update them on school safety, communication with schools, curriculum, summer opportunities, transportation, and sports offerings. In the next couple of weeks, I would like to meet with the SAC, even if it's virtually, to get their feedback on potential changes to our student dress code and administrative regulations on grading, specifically the 0 grade provision. Please ask the SAC to be on the lookout for an invitation to this meeting. So that's great news that the letter that you all drafted that was presented to Dr. Battle when she came to speak with you all was taken very seriously, and they are working to rectify your concerns and address your concerns. So kudos to you all for taking that initiative. Yes?
Could we get a copy of that message?
Yeah,
So, like,
I
the
will
group-
send it to Brooke, and then Brooke can disseminate it amongst everyone. Awesome. Thank you for that request. All right, so again, we're going back here to the Student Bill of Rights. What is a Student Bill of Rights? You kind of already know. It's like what you deserve as a student of Atlanta Public Schools. We've been working extensively with high school students, and so throughout this presentation, I will share with you our plan to expand our conversation with K-5 and 6-8. So as you know, our learning process to date, as of last year, this is when the process started. SAC was approached. I believe Dr. Chino was involved in that conversation. March of this year, there was the Student Leadership Forum that some of you may have participated in if you were on SGA or SAC last year. April and May, there were some focus groups held at Hank Aaron and Phoenix Academy. We want to make sure that we have representation from all voices of APS, not just our high-performing students. And then September and October, I've been to several schools. I have 2 more to visit in the next week or so to have smaller focus groups. We've also, myself and Dr. Chino, have been having community meetings. So we presented at the Go Team Conference, as well as we have virtual community meetings where parents, community members can attend. We've also presented to the Equity Committee that is consisting of members of in the public, right? Regular members of the public, and then also staff here on the equity team. The Wordle that you see, or the word cloud, is basically a compilation of all 496 responses of the survey that we've been sending out, that QR code that we've been reminding you all about like what were some of the key words that stuck out to us based on like the Student Bill of Rights, that first question, like what would you like to see? So you can see the largest word is the word that appeared the most. So we know that this is all about you, the students. That's the center. But making sure that you have rights, access, freedom. School was another one, but like we have to kind of drill down. So we have partnered with our data team, our dig team, and they're going to be crunching some of the data because that is not my expertise. So they have the entire spreadsheet of all the responses to kind of give us some key words to help us start to draft. Our goal is to have a draft, some language by November 14th. So we're hoping that at that time, we'll be able to have like, hey, these are the top 9, these are the top 5 Student Bill of Rights that we want to kind of brainstorm with you all and wordsmith with you all. You've already seen the Student Bill of Rights example. One push in our community meeting was to get it transcribed into Spanish. So now we have it in Spanish as well. The survey has also been updated to be in Spanish as well. So that is one new thing that you all are not aware of that happened last week. Also, I've been working with some of our elementary schools to help us craft K-5 friendly language for the Student Bill of Rights conversation. I'm going to be going to Continental Colony to speak to a group of first graders through 5th grade because we want to get their opinions about the Student Bill of Rights as well. So that is another update that has transpired since the last time we met. In front of you, you have the little handouts. I just kind of gave everyone a stack. And another push that came out of the community meetings was like, hey, football games, what can we do to share our basketball games or what have you? So those are for you to just spread out throughout your school, right? Tape them up in the bathroom on the mirror, hand it out to your peers for them to complete the survey, because while we have 500 responses, that's not representative of all of our students. And so we also have the language in Spanish on the handout as well. So the next basketball game, football game you go to, volleyball, whatever, I think that season is maybe over, you can pass it out to your peers. So discussion and Q&A. Any questions about this process so far? Yes, Peyton.
I know you're going to like schools, especially with younger kids, to talk to them about the Student Bill of Rights. How can like we be involved in that, like going to schools and talking to kids about?
Meaning going to other schools, or
yeah,
just
how we went to last year we went to, where was it? The ACCA building.
Oh, so that was when y'all went. Was that in March of last year? That might have been the leadership when y'all went to the ACCA.
Yeah,
right.
It was like both at the same time.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Okay. So I will get with Dr. Chino to see if that's something that can happen. I know during the day is tough, but a lot of you all have like early dismissal or like you leave early, so maybe we could leverage that. The only tricky thing about it is I've been having a hard time getting responses from principals. Sometimes I just kind of roll up to the schools and just show up. Other times I coordinate with the SGA folks. So most of the help that's needed is really getting your SGA folks to respond, getting your principals to respond. But I will consider that as well, Peyton. And I think we're going to be planning to do the ACCA symposium, not this semester, but next semester, where more conversations will take place, because at that time, we'll be really trying to finalize the language. So thank you for asking that. I saw another hand. Yes.
I was just going to ask what Peyton was saying. Could we maybe just do like our cluster elementary and middle schools to make it easier
for you all to go to your cluster? Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to see how we can coordinate that. Do you all have your own transportation is the question.
My cluster elementary school, I could walk to it.
You can walk to it. Okay, we do. So the other issue is transportation. And I know Keith can attest to that as far as like making sure, number one, we're short on bus drivers, so coordinating that. And then also, they kind of don't like for us to transport you all in our personal vehicles. So figuring out where you can fit in when it's appropriate. Thank you for that. Yes, and then I'll come over here. I thought I saw a hand.
Hey, Dr. CT.
Hey.
You remember we had this conversation before as well, and you know, you gave me that really helpful list of all the business managers and
Yes.
principals. Yeah, it's very helpful, and in fact, I've met with a couple of them already.
Oh, great.
But I've ran into a bit of a snag, like you said, is a lot of them don't really respond.
Yes.
So
So it's not just you. They don't respond to me either. Yeah, I think just continuing. Once I have that like that one person that I can go to and harass, that's helpful. That has been helpful. Like, it was very helpful for me at North Atlanta. I mean, I know y'all have an app and everything, but me having that one-on-one conversation with that person really got things going, and even getting with the individuals who are responsible for the advisement slides, so they can just put it in there. It is very challenging, and that's something that we could bring up at the principals meeting, like, hey, we're trying to have these conversations, but your people are not responding. And it's not like, you know, snitching, but it's just they got to do their job as far as responding. All right, here, and somebody over here? No, okay.
So I have a quick question more about the utility of the Bill of Rights. So once we draft and complete this,
then what?
Yeah, what will it actually do?
Right. So we're working on getting it into board policy. That's number one, to get it adopted by the board. Of course, that's not going to be enacted for this school year. We're also looking at other ways of accountability, right? So it going beyond like a poster, obviously in your classrooms, or a poster in the building that just no one looks at. So we have been meeting with our equity office. We have a plan to meet with, or we've already met with our SEL office. Keith was in that meeting this week. And so we're trying to make sure that this is a cornerstone, a pillar for all things that we do in the district, that no matter what, students come first, and that we're considering what rights you deserve in all the decisions that we're making. So we are having the conversations, not just with you all and not just with school leaders, but the entire community, and figuring out the accountability pieces as well. If you all are not familiar, I know I had this conversation at Jackson. Teachers are evaluated, right, on a system called the Teacher Keys of Effectiveness. And so, or TEKS, you may have heard that. And so one of the elements of TEKS is professionalism. And we could maybe attach this Bill of Rights to the professionalism element, possibly. I'm just speaking out loud right now. But we have already started those conversations also with with Dr. Gatson, who's over academics in schools. So we don't have the how yet, but it is in conversation. Yes, Paige.
This is not really a question. Just saying,
Okay.
Since we do know that our principals or whoever our advisor is contacting is not responding, make sure y'all bring up to your principal like, hey, did you get an email from Dr. CT? You know, you might want to respond to that. Because we can't do anything if our principals are not doing their part. So harass your principals, please.
Yeah, just have the conversation. Thank you so much, Peyton, for that push. Your SGA advisor, we're hosting an SGA advisor lunch and learn on November the 9th. So far, I only have 4 people that are coming, so we're going to eat good because we have a nice budget. But I would like for more of your SGA advisors to respond. So just say, hey, did you get the email from Dr. CT this week as an invitation for the lunch and learn? Because we can talk about things like this as far as them being the liaisons for us in the school buildings. Yes, Herman.
There was like 2 statements that I had. Well, it was 1 statement, 1 question.
Okay.
Really. So the topic that we talked about earlier with the charter schools and trying to make sure that we're getting information out to the elementary and middle schools in our charter, I talked to the superintendent about it also. Well, I didn't talk to her. Well, I talked to her, but like it didn't, So I talked to Keith about it also, and they were going to have, what was it, like town hall meetings or something like that. That's incentivized so that people can come out so we can get a good gauge of like where they are and getting information out of that. So I was thinking if we could have more of those and like put it out more. And then the second statement about the principals and like how we're trying to get more information out to the SGA advisors and everything. this isn't, and you can criticize, not criticize, but like, you know, give me suggestions and whatnot.
sure.
But I'm trying to get a thing set up at Carver where the SGA is having monthly meetings with the principals and the staff of the school so that we can work on getting information out like that.
That's great. I love that. And thank you for pushing. Because, you know, if I don't hear from your SGAs, like, I don't want to step on any toes. I don't know when you meet. Like, I've even offered to come to the meeting or help with various templates, meeting agendas, that kind of thing. And so if it's not reciprocated or responded, then I don't really want to step on any toes. But that's why you all are in the room, to have the voice. And then to your earlier point about town halls, that's coming up, is in this packet. Yes.
Could you maybe just like notify us when you like contact or email like
Sure.
leadership at our schools so that we
I
know
sure
to
will.
like just ask them about it?
I try to remember to put it in the group me. I don't know how often you all are checking the group me. So I will also commit to sending you an individual email on top of posting in group me. What's my time?
Yes, that's it's gonna be all.
Okay.
So thank you to Dr. TT, everybody.
The last thing is in your thing, regional meetings, look at the flyer, and then Hazel Health, they're going to be coming to speak to you all next month. All right? Thanks.
Okay, so, we got some really good news about the letter from Dr. Battle, so I just want to discuss that for our last 13 or so minutes. So, first with the principals meeting, who's interested in presenting at the principals meeting? Okay. So, I was thinking about this. For those who are interested in presenting, the principals meeting needs to be the people who are going to present on November 18th, 2023. That will be our practice round before we go into in front of the principals. So who did not sign up for that and does want to present for the principals meeting? Like, you want to do the principals meeting, but you didn't sign up for November 18th.
That was the one in the group me with the QR code, right? Was that?
You might not have received that information because you're not in the iMessage group chat. But other than that, I know you would have signed up, so I got you tomorrow. But you guys, okay, so for those of you who would like to present for the principals meeting, unfortunately those who did not come to the meeting today will not be able to present because they are not here to sign up. But for those who would like to present in the principals meeting, please stay after the meeting is adjourned so we can discuss this. We also was asked to set up a virtual meeting. So what days work best for you all out the week? Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we can, let's just cut out Fridays. So Monday to Thursday, what day works for you all?
Tuesday.
I got one Tuesday. I hear Tuesday. Tuesday around what time?
7.
Well, keep in mind we're meeting with Dr. Battle. So
Maybe 6. No.
Is there
not
any?
4, maybe like 5:30.
Is there any way we could maybe do Wednesdays at like 5 or 6 since we already kind of have that time cut out?
Considering athletes.
Like I work. Sorry.
I don't get out of practice till 7. Just considering athletes with the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's consider athletes and extracurriculars with the time.
we also have to consider Dr. Battle's time as well.
Right. So, yeah.
And this is a Zoom meeting, so it will only be about 15, 20 minutes. It shouldn't be longer than 30. I couldn't imagine it being longer than 30. So can we request a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
Well, if that's the case, would an advisory be an option then?
Oh wait, but
No, this is after school. This is after
it's
school.
different advisements for all schools. So are we choosing Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah.
Hands for Tuesday?
Oh, wait.
Okay, sorry. I motion to, is there a motion to ask Dr. Battle to meet on Tuesday?
I motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion by Zach, second by Peyton. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So I would be asking. Tuesday, Zoom. We're asking for times between 5:30 and 6. Or 5 and 6. Between 5 and 6?
Yes.
Okay. Just a reminder, operations, send your follow-up email. Budget, send your follow-up email. Anybody else have all hearts and minds clear? I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. I'm sorry.
It's just 2 seconds.
Please stop speaking.
Somebody left their phone. Mic check, mic check. All right. Let's pay. So schools, I know you guys reached out to Miss Montgomery. Academic schools, somebody.
It was not. Was it not?
Miss Chelsea Montgomery. None of y'all remember that email? Well, I'll go back and check. But anyway, Dr. CT and I has reached out to her, so we're gonna be meeting with her about next steps. How many of you guys, I know it's still a little foggy with meeting with your point of contacts for administration side. Where are we with that? What assistance do y'all need from Dr. CT and I, from me, Dr. CT and me, around that?
Could you send a, I don't know how to say
Email and then
this.
CC y'all on it?
Yes, please. Cause I email her occasionally for see when times we can meet up.
Who's
but Miss Satina Love from the activity department.
Love.
I email her occasionally, but sometimes I get responses back and sometimes I don't. So could you just
Yep, I got you.
Personally, South Atlanta administration is fine with communicating. It's just the rest of the cluster schools. So something similar to that, could there also be a blast?
Yeah, no, and I was speaking more so towards your meeting with department heads here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Anybody else?
Gotcha. Okay.
Have y'all reached out? Have y'all been working? I know a part we've dropped the ball on because I know operations, Troy, who's operations? Troy, Mr. Williams reached back out because he needed y'all assistance. Have y'all met with him yet? I know I saw an email from him.
That's Kevin.
We'll talk after this meeting, so we can get up to speed on that part. All right, I think I'm done. Yeah. I don't know. That's why. Let's talk after the meeting. Yep.
Just a reminder for those who are interested in presenting in the principal's meeting, please stay after. Also, when you're turning in your books, please put your name tag inside your books so we don't get confused. From now on, you will be sitting with your committee chair. So when you come in, grab your notebook, grab your paper, and sit with your committees. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I approve.
Oh.
Is there a second?
I second.
Approved by Kennedy, second by Zach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a great Wednesday.